Thomas Gale's retirement party, April 15th, 6 p.m. The invitation arrived at the end of March. The envelope was a pale cream color, addressed in the familiar round handwriting of my aunt, Hilary. The wording was simple and formal, but inside the envelope, there was also a personal letter from her. Dear Tracy, I hope you're doing well. I'm writing to you about your father's retirement party. As you know, I'm the only one in the family who's stayed in touch with you. 15 years is a long time. But I'm hoping that, just this once, you'll consider showing up. I want to help mend things between us. Aunt Hilary. My hands trembled slightly as I held the letter. No one in the family had contacted me directly since that testimony. Aunt Hilary was the only one who stayed in touch, sending me the occasional email or letter. I read her words over and over. Should I go or not? My heart wavered violently. If I went, it would surely be painful. My father might refuse to even look at me. My mother and Kevin wouldn't welcome me either. 15 years of silence had carved a deep chasm between us. I didn't need much imagination to feel its weight. But at the same time, this might be the last opportunity. He had already passed retirement age, and this April, he was finally stepping down. If I skipped this party, I might never have a chance to face my family again. I sat at my desk and picked up a pen. I intended to write a letter declining the invitation, but my hand wouldn't move. Why should I keep running away? I hadn't done anything wrong. I testified for the sake of justice, and I've been walking my own path ever since. Hilary's words echoed in my mind. I want to help mend things. She had been the only one standing between me and the rest of the family for these 15 years. I couldn't just ignore her request. Just one more time. I whispered to myself. One more time I'd try to face my family. And even if that truly marked the end of our relationship, at least I could say I tried. The next day, I wrote her a brief reply. Dear Aunt Hilary, thank you for your letter. I will attend Dad's retirement party. However, please understand this might be the last time. Tracy. After mailing it, I exhaled deeply. My emotions were tangled nervousness and hope, dread and resolve. But once I had made the decision, there was no turning back. It had been 15 years. It was the corruption scandal involving Daniel Anderson, my father's longtime friend and a powerful figure in the local construction industry. Bid rigging on public projects and embezzlement of funds. At the time, I was a graduate student studying constitutional law, and I took the stand as a witness for the prosecution. I took the witness stand for the prosecution and calmly recounted only the facts. But those facts led to Daniel's conviction. The fallout had a deep impact on my father. His long association with Daniel came under scrutiny, and his reputation was severely damaged. He faced questioning from the city council, intense media coverage, and cold stares from colleagues. There was even talk of resignation, but he fought to clear his name and managed to stay in his position. Over the years, he gradually rebuilt his trust and remained in the company even past retirement age. On the day of the verdict, my father wouldn't even look at me. My mother cried and said, "Why did you betray him? You ruined your father's life." And Kevin spat, "So you chose justice over family. Do you even know what he's been through?" Since then, I had no contact with them. No Christmas cards. No birthday calls. Only Hillary remained in my life. I heard that my father continued working long after retirement age. In the community, he was considered a respected figure and was well liked. As for me, I quietly worked in my office at Cambridge, guiding students and immersing myself in legal research. I tried not to think about my family, but I could never truly forget. On the day of the party, I chose my outfit carefully. A navy suit, white blouse, and a string of pearls. Elegant, composed without drawing too much attention. I looked at myself in the mirror and took a deep breath. I was already thinking ahead how I would survive the day. When I arrived at the hotel, the venue was already bustling. The mayor, city council members, local business owners, people had gathered to celebrate my father's long career. I avoided the reception table and quietly headed to the back of the room. I didn't have the courage to give my name. I wanted to stay invisible, like an uninvited guest. That's when Kevin spotted me. He had been chatting with some friends, but his face went pale the moment he saw me. "Tracy?" He walked over, disbelief written all over his face. "What are you doing here?" It had been 15 years since I last saw my brother, and he had grown into a completely different man. I had heard from Aunt Hillary that Kevin was now working as a doctor. "Kevin," I said quietly. Just then, our mother appeared behind him. The moment she saw me, she froze. The glass in her hand trembled. "Tracy," her voice quivered. "Why? Who?" People around us were beginning to notice the tension. I could hear whispers. "Who is she? Mr. Gale's daughter? I haven't seen her in years." Panicked, my mother grabbed my arm. "We can't talk here. Come this way." She and Kevin led me to a quieter corner of the venue. A few people watched us, but thankfully, it seemed my father still hadn't noticed I was there. "Who invited you?" My mother asked in a hushed voice, filled with confusion and a trace of anger. "Aunt Hillary," I replied. Kevin let out a sharp sigh. "Of course. Aunt Hillary always has to meddle." "Kevin." My mother cut him off, then turned back to me. "Tracy, your father doesn't know you're here. If he sees you..." "It'll be a disaster, right?" I said with a wry smile. "So I'm still the unwanted guest." Her expression twisted with unease. 15 years had carved deep lines into her once beautiful face. I could still see the woman I remembered, but now she looked tired, worn down by time. "Tracy, please, I'm begging you. Leave before your father sees you. Today is important." I was speechless. After 15 years, the first thing my mother said to me was, "Leave." At that moment, Aunt Hillary appeared. "Tracy?" I turned to find her standing there, concern etched into her face. "Aunt Hillary." "You really came," she said, taking my hand gently. "But..." She glanced at my mother and brother's tense expressions and quickly understood what was happening. "Hillary, why did you bring Tracy here?" My mother asked in a low voice. "You know what Thomas would." "That's exactly why." Hillary cut her off. "It's been 15 years. How much longer are we going to live like this?" Then she turned to me and said firmly, "Tracy, your father is stubborn. But you have every right to be here." This is your family's gathering, too." My mother and brother looked thrown off. To them, I was no longer family. But Hillary didn't see it that way. And I knew if my father saw me, he would most likely kick me out on the spot. I was an uninvited guest, trying not to breathe too deeply. Still, a part of me was glad to see my family again, even if they didn't welcome me. And then, "What's all this commotion?" We turned. Standing there was my father. His expression froze the moment his eyes met mine. "Tracy." His voice was low, tight with suppressed anger. "Why are you here?" "Thomas." Hillary stepped forward. I invited her. "Tracy is your daughter." "Daughter?" He scoffed bitterly. "I have no daughter. That person betrayed this family." I gasped. The first words I heard from my father in 15 years were as cold and merciless as a blade. "Dad," I said, my voice trembling. "Don't say another word. You have no reason to be here." My father raised a hand, silencing me. All eyes in the room turned toward us. I could hear the murmurs growing. A wave of shame and sorrow pressed down on my chest, nearly suffocating me. "Thomas, that's no way to speak to her," Aunt Hillary protested. "Hillary, stay out of this," my father snapped. "She is not family." I turned to leave. I couldn't bear to stay any longer. But then, my father said something I didn't expect. "Fine. Since you're here, at least stay for my speech later. It will be a fitting lesson in humiliation." I looked at him, startled. I had thought he would throw me out immediately. But instead, he intended to let me stay if only to shame me publicly. His eyes held nothing but contempt. Without another word, he turned away and resumed chatting with other guests, as though I didn't exist. I was confused. I had expected anger, confrontation. But this cold indifference, this calculated dismissal, unsettled me more than shouting ever could. "Are you okay?" Aunt Hillary whispered, her voice gentle. "I think so, but why didn't he make me leave?" A sinking feeling spread through my chest. He's planning something. He won't just let it go. Soon my father stepped up to the microphone. It was time for his speech. "Thank you all for coming today." His voice filled the hall with ease and authority. He spoke about his 42 years of service, the struggles and achievements, and gave thanks to his colleagues and family who had supported him through it all. When he said the word family, I thought I saw him glance at me, but he quickly looked away. "I'm especially proud of my son, Kevin, who works as a doctor in our community and has helped so many patients." And he clearly looked straight at me. My heart began to race. Was he about to acknowledge me? I sat up straighter and waited for my father to speak. "And today we are joined by the disgrace of our family." A wave of whispers spread through the room. I felt dozens of eyes shift toward me. Blood drained from my face. There is someone among us who has stained the Morrison family name. That person is Tracy. She claims to be my daughter, but she is nothing of the sort. She is a failure, a shameful mistake. I could barely stay on my feet. His words struck like knives. Failure. The word rang in my ears, over and over again. This person is a disgrace to our family. She betrayed us and ruined her father's life. I'm deeply sorry that we must carry someone like her among us. The room was silent. I could feel their stares: pity, disgust, curiosity. I stood there, trapped in the storm of judgment. This was how my father truly felt. He seemed indifferent at first, but maybe that was all part of his plan. And now, he had humiliated me in front of them all. He continued his speech as if nothing had happened, as if I had already been erased. And slowly, the crowd's attention shifted away from me, drawn back to his polished words. I turned, quietly making my way toward the exit. There was no reason to stay any longer. His words had made it clear our relationship was beyond repair. But just before I reached the doors, someone called out to me. It was Frank Owen, the president of my father's company. He had known me since I was a child and had always treated me kindly. "Tracy, do you have a moment?" I nodded softly. He led me to a quiet corner of the hall. "I listened to what your father said." He chose his words carefully. "But I know the truth about you. Maybe your father doesn't, but I do." I frowned, confused. What was he talking about? "You're a professor at Harvard, aren't you? Constitutional law." I stared at him, stunned. How did he know that? "My son's in law school. He talks about you a lot. You're well-known, Professor T. Gale." I recognized the name and asked him to show me a picture. I knew immediately. I couldn't say a word. I never imagined there was someone in this small town who truly knew who I was. "Why don't you tell the truth right now?" Frank gently grasped my arm as he spoke. "Your father deserves to know who you really are. There's no reason to wait until tomorrow." I hesitated. "But, Tracy, you've suffered enough for 15 years. You don't need to carry this misunderstanding any longer." His words gave me the push I needed, and I took a deep breath. Maybe it was time to stop hiding. I had been rejected by my father, abandoned by my family. But that didn't mean I had to deny my own worth. I had worked relentlessly for the last 15 years. I turned back to the hall. My father stood surrounded by people, still smiling, still basking in admiration. I gathered all my courage and began to walk toward him. "Dad." My voice echoed through the hall. His smile faded. The conversations around us came to a halt. "You're still here? I thought you had left," he said coldly. "You spoke about me," I said, my voice trembling. "You called me a failure." "That's right. You're the disgrace of this family," he said without hesitation. The crowd murmured again. People began to gather around us. Frank stepped forward, standing beside me. "Thomas," he said, calmly but firmly. "You truly don't know who your daughter is, do you?" "What are you talking about, Frank?" My father scowled. "Your daughter is a professor at Harvard University. She's a nationally recognized expert in constitutional law." A stunned silence fell over the hall. My father's face turned pale. My mother let out a faint gasp. "That's ridiculous," my father muttered. "There's no way this child is a professor at Harvard. You must be mistaken." I'm not mistaken, Frank said, turning to me. Tracy, would you show him? I reached into my handbag and pulled out my business card. Printed clearly on it. Dr. Tracy Gale, Professor of Constitutional Law, Harvard University. I handed it to my father. His hand shook as he took it. This must be fake, he said. But his voice had lost its conviction. I took out my phone and opened the Harvard University website. My faculty profile was displayed: photo, biography, and credentials. Do you still not believe me? I asked quietly. I teach constitutional law at Harvard. My research is used in law schools across the country. Still, my father shook his head stubbornly. This is a fake, he insisted. Anyone can make a fake website. Anyone can print a business card. More murmurs from the crowd. Confusion and discomfort spread among the guests. Frank stepped forward again. Thomas, what are you saying? Do you really believe this is fake? Of course it is. My father raised his voice. There's no way she could be a Harvard professor. I don't know what kind of trick you're trying to pull here, but I won't be fooled. Guests exchanged uncertain glances. They were clearly unsettled by the scene unfolding. Frank didn't flinch. Thomas, the only reason you can't accept this is because you don't want to. But this is the truth. Your daughter is a Harvard professor. Shut up, my father roared. Don't you dare lie to me. Then, from the back of the room, a young man stepped forward. It was Frank's son. Dad, let me speak, he said. She is my professor. There's no mistake. My father's face drained of all color. I looked at him and spoke calmly. Why is it so hard for you to accept that I've succeeded? He had no words. But I could see it in his eyes, a storm of emotions swirling beneath the surface. With a trembling voice, my father said, That can't be. I took a step forward. You call the evidence fake. Are you afraid of the truth? His face contorted. If you've really become someone so accomplished. If so, then what? Then it means I was wrong. It means that I made a mistake when I abandoned you during that trial. The room fell into even deeper silence. His confession laid bare the truth he had hidden even from himself. 15 years ago, when you testified, I cared only about protecting my own position. I didn't want to believe you were doing the right thing, because if I did... His voice cracked. Then I'd have to admit I was the kind of father who threw his daughter away to save himself. So I convinced myself you were wrong. That you were a failure. That way, I could keep pretending I was the victim. My mother gasped softly. Kevin stood frozen, disbelief written across his face. If I admit you're a professor at Harvard, that you've succeeded, then what does that make me? A foolish father who tried to destroy his daughter's future. I listened quietly. At last my father was admitting the truth that had long been buried in his heart. I wanted you to fail. If your life turned out miserable, then I could say I was right. That I had made the correct decision. That my selfishness was justified. Frank spoke, his tone grave. Thomas, you were afraid of her success. That's right. I was afraid, because if Tracy succeeded, then all of my ugliness would be exposed. So I wanted her to fail. He looked up at me. When I called you a failure, it wasn't because I believed you were. It's because I needed you to escape my own guilt. And then he collapsed into a chair as if his legs could no longer support him. What have I done? As the truth finally sank in, the crowd began to grasp the gravity of what had just happened. My mother rushed over from across the room. Tracy, is it really true? You're a professor at Harvard? Yes, Mom, I said quietly. Kevin stepped forward, too. Tracy, we didn't know. We honestly didn't know. You didn't try to know, I replied, looking him straight in the eyes. For 15 years, you all acted like I didn't exist. You didn't care what I was doing. You never even asked. Frank turned to them and said, Everyone, Tracy is one of the leading constitutional scholars in the country. Her work has influenced major legal rulings. You didn't know it, but she's been doing incredible things. Finally, my father looked up. Tracy, I'm sorry, truly. Do you think a simple apology is enough? I stood up slowly. For 15 years, I was invisible to this family. Do you have any idea how painful that was? My mother took a step toward me, but I raised my hand to stop her. You can't expect me to forgive everything right now. I need time. Frank spoke gently. Tracy, I understand how you feel, but families make mistakes. What matters is what they learn from them. I took a deep breath. A heavy silence filled the room. No one had words. Then I said softly, Dad, I didn't live my life just to earn your approval. But at the very least you need to know the truth. I am not a failure. And with that, I turned and walked out. The night air brushed my cheeks as I stepped outside. There was a sense of release but also a deep sadness. I didn't know yet if things with my family would ever be repaired. A week had passed since I returned to Cambridge. Every day I received emails and calls from my family. At first I ignored them, but over time I noticed the tone of their messages began to change. The first apology came from my father. Tracy, I'm truly sorry for what happened the other day. For years I made you out to be the villain just to protect myself. I didn't even know how much you had accomplished, and I hurt you based on my own assumptions. I want to apologize from the bottom of my heart. Then my mother reached out. Tracy, this is Mom. I had no idea you were a professor at Harvard. We never even tried to find out what your life had become. Now I finally understand how much pain you must have carried all these years. I'm so sorry. Even Kevin wrote to me a rare thing. Tracy, I've treated many patients as a doctor, but I never once tried to understand my own family. You did the right thing, but we blamed you. I couldn't see your courage for what it was. I'm sorry. Still, I didn't reply right away. I couldn't tell if their apologies came from genuine regret, or if they were just reacting to the shock of discovering my success. A week later, I wrote a short reply. I've received your apologies. I haven't been holding on to resentment for these past 15 years. But I can't return to how things used to be overnight. I'd like us to take time to consider whether we can build a new kind of relationship. For now, I need some distance. Tracy. After sending the message, communication from my family temporarily stopped. I felt a sense of relief and, unexpectedly, a quiet loneliness. About a month later, Aunt Hillary called. "Tracy, how have you been?" "I'm well, Aunt Hillary. Thanks for checking in. I actually wanted to talk to you about your family." Her voice was careful. "Your father, mother, and Kevin, they've all started going to counseling." I was stunned. Counseling? Yes. After that night, they had a long talk. They finally realized how deeply they had hurt you. They want to change, and they've decided to seek professional help. Aunt Hillary, is that really true? It is. The counselor told them how painful it must have been for you to be denied by your own family for so many years. Thomas cries at every session, I heard. A wave of mixed emotions rose in my chest. I could hardly imagine my father in tears. "But they're not asking you to forgive them right away," she added. "They just want to reconnect, on your terms. If you're willing, maybe you could start with small steps." After hanging up, I spent a long time thinking. If they were truly trying to change, maybe I could meet them halfway, at least try. 2 months later, I sent my mother a short email. "Mom, I heard you're going to counseling. I think that's a good step. I'm still working through my own feelings, so please give me more time. Tracy." Her reply came the next day. "Thank you for writing, Tracy. We won't rush you. We truly want to change. I hope that someday we can become a real family again." After that, we began exchanging short messages about once a month. My father sent updates about his work. My mother shared bits of daily life. Kevin wrote about his experiences as a doctor. The content remained somewhat surface level, but there was no more hostility or coldness. I could tell they were genuinely trying. 2 months later, I made my first phone call to the family. My mother picked up. "Tracy." Her voice lit up with joy. "How are you, Mom?" "I'm doing well. Counseling has helped me see things more clearly, how wrong we were to treat you the way we did." We talked for nearly an hour. She told me about what they had been learning in therapy, and how much my father and Kevin had come to reflect on their actions. "I hope we can all sit down and talk properly sometime," I said. "Really?" Her voice trembled. "Do you mean you'll forgive us?" "Not completely yet, but I'd like to try rebuilding trust, little by little." 6 months later, I made an important decision. While continuing my work at the university, I launched a new project, a support program for students from underprivileged backgrounds. It was a program designed to offer scholarships and mentorship to students who aspired to attend law school but had been forced to give up their dreams due to financial hardship. When I discussed the idea with Professor Susan, one of my colleagues, her eyes lit up. "That's incredible. But why this, all of a sudden?" I paused before answering. "Because I know what it feels like to be misunderstood, to feel completely alone. And I want to support kids who are in that same place. Your story is becoming someone else's strength." Through this project, I met many young people. Some were carrying pain from families that couldn't, or wouldn't, understand them. I taught them that their worth isn't defined by how others see them. And now, I continue to reflect on my own family. I still can't fully forgive them, but I can acknowledge their effort to change. What kind of relationship we'll have in the future, I still don't know. But I no longer feel hatred or bitterness. Sometimes time does heal. And with that in mind, I continue to face each day in my office, working with my students.